And let's get right into the Kiwi Holiday Junior Varsity Edition case for the Microsoft Excel Collegiate Challenge 2025. In our instructions, we're told we are on a plane along with friends and family on our way to New Zealand for a well-deserved holiday, and we're considering what cities to visit. So we'll skip the bonus questions for now, and we'll jump right into level 1. For level 1, the question that they're asking us to answer here is, what is the greatest attribute score for each destination? Below, we'll see we have a list of destinations here in column G, and then a row of attributes given scores for each of those various destinations. So we want to answer, what is the greatest attribute for each of these destinations? We're looking for the highest score. So in E57 here, we're going to calculate the max score for our first destination here. So we're going to go ahead and type equals max of the entire range for this first destination, H57 through Q57. It calculates that the highest is this 80 for scenery. We can go ahead and autofill this down for the remainder of the destinations. For level 2, the question is, what is the sum of the attribute scores for each of the destinations? So again, across the board, we are looking to sum all of these attribute scores for the destination. In E96, we will do equals sum function of this first range from H96 to Q96. From there, again, we can autofill down to fill in for the remainder of the destination list. Level 3, which attribute has the highest attribute score for each destination? Then they want us, so first have to calculate the highest attribute score, and then we want to return the name of that attribute, not the score itself. So we want to look up the maximum score for this destination and have it return the name of the attribute. So in E135, we will start with a lookup function. We'll use an XLOOKUP function. And we want to look up the maximum score. So I will then enter in a max function. I want to know the max attribute for this first destination. So the max of the range from H135 to Q135. I'll close that first parentheses to get out of the max function. Enter in a comma, and it says, where is the lookup array? Where am I looking up this maximum? I'm looking it up in that exact range of scores again, from H135 to Q135. Another comma, we will get to the return array. So what am I asking it to return for me then? I am asking it to return the list of attributes associated with the max score. So the range from H131 to Q131. I can lock in that range using my F4 key so that when I autofill down for the remainder of the destinations, the attributes stay put. I'll close out of those parentheses, out of that function, and enter. From there, we can autofill this down, again, to apply to the rest of the destinations. Moving on to level 4, we want to answer the question, how many destinations are within the kilometer limit of the start location? We do not want to include the start location in the count. So scrolling down here, we see that we have a list of starting locations and then the kilometer limit that they are looking to reach. So for our first here in row 175, we are looking to stay within a 300 kilometer limit. To the right, we have a list of tables of kilometers from the start city. So given this start city, this is how far kilometer-wise these other destinations are. So we want to calculate how many count-wise of these destinations are within this kilometer limit. So we want to use a count function, and we also want to then get rid of the start city from that count. So in E175, we'll do a count ifs function. And we want to count if in the range from J175 to AD175, comma, we want to know if any of those, or count how many of those are within the kilometer limit for this first destination. So to be within the kilometer limit, you would be less than or equal to this first initial 300 limit. When entering this in, it has to be within quotes, so less than or equal to, and the criteria of H175. I'll close out this initial count ifs function. That'll give me an entire count of all of the start cities, how many of the cities are within the kilometer limit of the starting city. From there, though, we need to remove the starting city itself, so I will subtract 1. And again, once we get this result, we can autofill down for the remainder of the starting cities. Level 5, what destination, excluding the start location, is nearest to the start location? And we should return the name of the destination, the closest destination. So we have, again, the list of starting cities here, the kilometers from the start city in the table to the right. So we'll begin in E215. And at its core, we are trying to look up the city that is closest to our start city. So we know we need to use a lookup function. I'll do an XLOOKUP equals XLOOKUP. I am trying to find the distance closest to my start city, or in other words, the smallest distance away from my start city. However, in the case of our cities, we can return the start city itself. So I am technically looking for the second smallest distance away from my starting city. So to calculate that, we'll use a small function, which returns the kth smallest value in a data set. I want to find the second smallest in the range from I215 to AC215. Comma, kth return, I want to return the second smallest city because I do not want to include the start city. I'll close out that function with my first parentheses and enter in a comma to get to the next portion of my XLOOKUP, which is my lookup array. I want to find the second smallest city limit or kilometer limit within that same range from I215 to AC215. And I want it to return the array in I211 through AC211. So once it finds the second smallest distance, I want it to return the name of that city. We will go ahead and lock in that range, I211 to AC211, with our F4 key. I'll close out that final parentheses and hit enter. From then, we will autofill down to complete the remainder of the starting city answers. For level 6, they ask us, what is the travel time in minutes from the start to end destination for each game? And they want us to round our answer to the nearest minute. So there's a little note here saying that the speed of travel is 80 kilometers per hour. And to then go from hours to minutes, we will have to multiply by 60 to get our final answer in minutes and then round from there. So we will start in E257 here. We know our final answer needs to be rounded to the nearest whole number. So I am going to start with an equals round function. I'm going to enter in another parentheses here so that we can make sure we include the conversion from kilometers per hour and then into minutes in the end. From here, I want to use a lookup function because I want to know the kilometers traveled. Once we have the kilometers traveled, we'll convert into hours and then into minutes. So I will enter in a lookup, an X lookup function. I am looking up my end destination, H257, comma. I'm looking it up in the array from J253 through AD253. So I am looking up my end destination in this top range here, labeled kilometers from start city. I'm going to go ahead and lock those in using my F4 key. I want it to then return the distance, the kilometers. So I'm going to head down to J257 through AD257. So look up this end city in this first range and return the kilometer distance. I'm going to close out that initial parentheses for the X lookup, and I want to divide it by 80. Again, travel time needs to be divided by 80 here. And then from there, we need to convert hours to minutes. So I will go ahead and multiply it by 60. And then to finish it off, I'll type a comma. And the last entry for the round function is number of digits. I'll enter in a 0 so that it's rounded to the nearest whole number. Close out your final parentheses and hit enter. Again, from here, we can autofill for the remainder of these rows. Okay, level 7. So your friends and family want to know what destination they should travel to next, starting from any one of these 21 starting locations listed here in column G. They decided to rank destinations using something called an adjusted total attribute score, which is going to be the sum of attribute scores minus the travel minutes from the start divided by 10. Kilometers from start are provided. The speed is again 80 kilometers per hour. Attribute scores are located in this destinations worksheet. And the question we're trying to answer is, what is the adjusted total attribute score of the best destination from the start, excluding the starting destination? And we want to round our answer to the nearest integer. So the example given is that the destination with the highest adjusted total attribute is the following, with a rounded score of 545. So we calculated a total attribute score adjusted for travel time and then received an adjusted total attribute score. So to start, we are going to head to the Destinations tab because we need to calculate first our sum of attribute scores, and then we'll also calculate a few other things to move forward. So if I head into the Destinations worksheet here, I get a list of destinations along with their attribute scores for the various attributes. So in column M here, I'm going to just type sum so I can have a reference for what I was doing later. And I just want to take a sum of all of the attribute scores for that destination. In M6, I will go ahead and type sum equals sum, and I will take it for the very first range here, C6 to L6. Close out that parentheses, hit enter, and autofill it down. I'll also calculate a rank. So I want to see who has the highest sum and who has the lowest sum of attributes. So in N here, I'm going to just type rank, and we'll enter in the equation of equals rank EQ, so that we can calculate the rank relative to the list itself. I want to rank for the first entry here for M6, and I want to compare it to the range M6 through M26. I'll go ahead and lock that in so I can drag this down in autofill for the remainder of the sums. I'll close out the parentheses and hit enter. And we can autofill down from there. We'll also go ahead and just for the sake of it, let's calculate the max sum, just so we can have a gauge of our numbers to start off with. So the max is equals max of the sum range from M6 to M26. So we find that 624 is the max. And again, we have the associated ranks here for the first being the maximum. So our next step, we will create a new worksheet just so we can get all of our data going without cluttering our case solution worksheet. So from here, I want you to go ahead and copy the list of destinations from B6 to B26. I'm going to create a new worksheet here. I'll just label it level 7. And I want to paste these transpose, so going from a column into a row itself. I'm going to go down here in the Home tab. I'll use the paste function here and paste as transpose. Just going to clean this up a little bit, remove any borders that we have, and we can go ahead and quickly format this just so we can see all of our destination names. So we are working from example 7 in our initial case here. We have example 7 as our game, and this is for the first example here, where they calculated the answer to be 545 for their adjusted total attribute score. So I want to import the list of kilometers from city start based on this initial example. So we will do every calculation based on this initial example, and then we will go ahead and calculate it for the remaining. So we'll use this as our guide and then calculate further. I want to import the kilometers from Start City from these Start City destinations. So I'm going to head back to my level 7 worksheet here, and I'm just going to look up our example 7 range and have it return from columns I through AC the list of kilometers. In H8 here, I'm going to do a range here. So I'm going to highlight from H8 through, let's see, AB here, because I want to import all of the limits in one go. So I want to do a lookup, X lookup. I'm looking up my example 7, and I want to look it up in the case worksheet. So example 7 here is in the column B, and I want to return from columns I, see if I could type it, I through AC. I'll go ahead and close my parentheses here, and I'll hit Control-Shift-Enter so that I can return the entire range at once. So working in dynamic here. Next, I want to calculate the minutes from this. So similar to before, we had kilometers per hour was calculated as 80. So we need to divide these numbers by 80 and then get 2 minutes by multiplying by a further 60. So I'm just going to label this as minutes. In H9 here, then I will do H8, so the kilometers traveled. Let me actually open parentheses, H8, and I want to do a dynamic range, so using that pound sign, we'll go ahead and highlight that entire range for me. I'll divide it by 80 and then multiply it by 60. From there, I can just hit enter because we included that initial pound sign, and it will carry over and fill out for the remainder of the range. Okay, from there, let's calculate the attribute scores. So, using another lookup function, xlookup, I want to look up from the range of city names here. So from H7 through AB7, I want to look up those names in my destinations worksheet and pull from the list of B6 to B26. I then, wanted to return the sum range. So this range that we calculated earlier in M, or column M. So the range from M6 to M26. Go ahead and close the parentheses and hit enter. So this is our our sum of attribution scores for these starting cities. From there, I want to calculate my total adjusted scores. So this was given in the case itself here. Our adjusted total attribute score is going to be equal to the sum of attribute scores, which we just imported, minus travel minutes from start divided by 10. So we'll head back here and we'll calculate a total adjusted score. I'm going to use an if function. So if the destination kilometer is 0, so if H8 here is equal to 0, I wanted to return a 0, right? Because that means it is the starting city. Otherwise, if that's false, I want to calculate the score, and we will do that by using the attribute score minus the minutes traveled and divide that by 10. Could go ahead and close out the parentheses, enter, and then we will autofill it for all of the cities. Okay, so from here, then we can go forward and try to calculate the rounded max total adjusted score for, again, this is our first example entry. So I'm going to start a data table here. We will insert the first row as the example data so that we can make sure we get to the correct answer, and then we'll auto-calculate through a data table the answers for the remaining cities. So I'm going to label the games. We will have our initial game in this first row, but then I want to calculate for the remainder of the games. And you'll see here the games go from 121 through 140. So in order to create a similar list or an exact same list, I'm going to use the sequence function. So in C16 here, I'm going to skip a row just so I can have my example in that first row. I'm going to use the sequence function to return a sequence of those numbers. I want 20 rows, no columns minus this one. I want it to start at 121 and go forward from there for 20 for 20 rows, excuse me. Enter in parentheses and hit enter, and you'll get a dynamic array here from 121 through 1. All right, so for my level 7, I want to calculate the rounded maximum total adjusted score. So I'm going to do equals round. And again, I want the max score. So I will follow it with a max function. And I want the max of my adjusted scores here, total adjusted scores. Close out that max parentheses, enter in a comma, and we want it to round to the nearest whole number, and another parentheses to close it out. So my max rounded score is 545, which is indeed the answer here, 545. Let's also calculate a few extra things just to make sure that we're hitting home and seeing the actual details of this case. So my max total adjusted score, let's just label it here, is going to be just the max of this range here that we just rounded up. So equals max of this range, H12 to AB12. So the max score was a 544.65, and it gets rounded up to 545. I want to also see just what the associated city was with this. So I'll do total adjusted score city here. And that just means we want to look up the city associated with our max. So we are going to look up using an XLOOKUP function in F15 equals XLOOKUP. Oops, XLOOKUP. We want to look up our max total score. We will look it up in this total adjusted score range from H12 to AB12. And we wanted to return the array containing the city names from H7 to AB7. Close out the parentheses and hit enter. So we could see here. Okay, I want to create a filter sort of on the side here, just so I can show which city is being accounted for in this max total adjusted score. So we do have it here, but I want to create another dynamic filter so then we can create a count off of this filter. So over here, just on the side for myself, I'm going to do an equals filter function. I want to filter the list of city destinations from H7 to AB7. And I want to say include the total adjusted scores if it's equal to the max total adjusted score in E15. Close out the parentheses and hit enter. So purely just a count finally, so that you can count in the end if you would like to, based on how many cities are included. So I'm just going to write city count here. And in here, I'm going to do equals count A of this filter we created. It'll be dynamic so that it can update as we continue down and find the solutions for the remaining destinations. Okay, so here we have the solution for the example. And now we want to fill it out for the remaining games listed here. So if I look at this as a data table, I'm going to make my input as example 7. And I'm going to say to input for these games and recalculate all of these for these games. So I will highlight the range from C15 through G35 here. I'll head into my data tab, head to what if analysis, and we're going to do a data table. I have example 7 written up here. So my column input is to calculate that table of data from example 7. Mine's located in F8, that reference, and I'll hit OK. So from here, we'll get an entry and recalculation for each of these starting cities with the ranges updating accordingly. So our new max total adjusted scores listed in column E, the related city to that adjusted score, and then the level rounded. So this total max adjusted score rounded to the nearest whole number. So those are our solutions then for the case. I'm just going to go in here into E304 in the case worksheet, and I will reference it back to D16 in my level 7 worksheet. From there, I'll autofill down, and it should autofill from the remaining solutions. Okay, from here, we can head into our bonus questions. So if I scroll all the way back up, our first bonus question here in cell E32. In level 1, what is the smallest attribute score for any single attribute among all the destinations, excluding the example? So I'm looking for the smallest score. It is as simple as a min calculation or minimum. In E32, I will do equals min. This is regarding level 1, so I will scroll down here and we will look for the minimum from H57 all the way through Q76. So the entire table here. Close that parentheses and hit enter. For bonus 2, question is, in level 2, what is the greatest sum of attribute scores by destination, excluding the example? So for here, I'm going to type an equal sign. We are looking for the greatest, meaning the max. Let's scroll down to level 2. We previously calculated the sums. So those were our answers here in column E. So I want to calculate the maximum in the range, or of the range, E96 to E115. Close parentheses and enter. For bonus 3, we're back to level 1. So in level 1, which attribute has the greatest total score across all destination, excluding the example? And then we want to return the attribute's name. So again, we are looking to return a name, so we need to use a lookup function. I'll start with an XLOOKUP. I want to look up the greatest total score and then return the attribute name associated with that. So I want to calculate the max of, and then let's scroll down to level 1 here. I want to calculate the max of the range from H, let's see. Oh, we did not calculate the total. So let me go calculate the total first. In H77 here, I want to calculate the total across this attribute. So I just want to calculate the sum of the range from H57 to H76. Let me autofill that across. All right. Now that we have that, we can go back up to this bonus question. So, greatest total score. That is the total score, the sum, across all destinations for an attribute. So now I want to find the greatest total and then return the attribute name. So again, I want to start with an XLOOKUP. I want to look up a max value. I want to find the max in this sum range that we just calculated from H77 to Q77. I'll close out that max parentheses, enter in a comma. We want to look up that maximum number in that same range. So find the max in this range. And then I wanted to return the array of the attributes names themselves. So from H53 to Q53. We'll close out that final parentheses for an XLOOKUP and hit enter. And level 5 for bonus number 4. What is the greatest time in minutes to travel between any two destinations? So again, we're looking for the greatest time, so we want to calculate a max between any two destinations, excluding the example round to the nearest minute. So we need a round function, we want to calculate the max, and then we also have to convert to minutes. So in E35 here, we'll start with a round function, and I want to enter in another parenthesis so that we can do the conversion to minutes all in the same function here. I want to calculate the max, and we'll scroll all the way down to level 5. Let's see. And I'll take the max of all the kilometers. So from I 215 to AC 234. I'll close out that first initial max parentheses. I want to convert this first to kilometers. So I will divide by 80, or excuse me, to hours. So I will divide by 80. I'll then close that parentheses, and I want to then convert to minutes, so I will multiply it by 60. From here, I am still, scroll all the way up so we have a better view. I am in the round function. I'll enter in a comma, and again a 0 to round to the nearest whole number. Close out that last parentheses and hit enter. Okay. In level 7, for the last bonus question here, what is the lowest adjusted total attribute score for non-preferred destinations across all games, excluding the example? Wants us to round to the nearest integer. So let's go back. We'll do some calculations on our level 7 worksheet. Again, we're trying to find the lowest. So we'll go back and use the small function. We do want to exclude the example. So we're not looking for the smallest value. We're going to be looking for the second smallest value. So we'll head back here for level 7. I'm just going to call this bonus. So let's calculate it for the example, and then we'll rerun our data table to calculate for the remainder of the destinations. So for the example that we have listed up above, I want to use the small function. I want to find the second smallest number in the array from H12 to AB12, which was our total adjusted score column. Comma, and I want to find the second smallest because I do not want to include the starting city. Close out that parentheses and hit enter. So for our first destination here for the example, it was 297. Let's rerun this data table so that we can get this result, the bonus calculation for the remaining destinations. So I'll re-highlight from C15 through H35 here. We'll head into the data tab, back to what if analysis, into data table. Again, my column input in this case is still that example 7, located in F8, and I'll press OK. So all of our other numbers should remain the same. We just now have a bonus calculation here. Let's head back to the case. So it asks to find the lowest adjusted total attribute score for non-preferred destinations across all the games. So we just calculated it for all the games, and now we basically just want to find the minimum value and round that value to the nearest integer. So in E36 here, again, let's start with a round function. I want to round the minimum of the values we've just calculated in this level 7 worksheet from H16 through H35. I'll close out that first parentheses, put a comma and a 0 to round the nearest integer, close out the final parentheses, and hit enter. So that is the entirety of our Kiwi Holiday Challenge. Thank you for tuning in.